word emanating out of the NHL's general managers' meetings in Florida is that not much by way of change is to be expected. It's a kind of "why mess with perfection" attitude. Scoring is up. Come from behind wins are up. Fighting is down. On and on, the list goes. The Maple Leafs' inability to get past the Bruins in the first round of the playoffs in recent years has frustrated fans but also created a fiercer rivalry between the two teams. Steve Russell, Toronto Star. File photo. One area not up for discussion: the playoff format. There are those that see flaws in a system that could see the Maple Leafs end up as the third-best team in the NHL, points-wise, anyway, and not have home ice advantage until the third round, if they make it that far. That's because the two better teams, Tampa and Boston, were in the same division and the NHL switched in 2013-14 to a division-based playoff system, with the added proviso that the two wildcard teams could potentially switch divisions based on points. Read more. Marchand weighs in on Marner's contract negotiations with Maple Leafs. Leafs unleash secret weapon. Edison blowout win over Flames. Bruce Arthur. Leafs hit the road in pursuit of home ice. Most of those who see the flaws are Leafs fans. The team has had difficulty winning a round in the playoffs because of its inability to beat the Bruins over 7 games in April, despite having a lead in the third period of Game 7 both times. The same core, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Zdeno Chara, Tuukka Rask, David Krejci, that ousted the Leafs in 2013 did it again last year and probably would relish the chance to do it again this year. If the Leafs should prevail against Boston, they'd presumably take on Tampa, the top seed, in the second round. It fade Leafs GM Kyle Dubas embraces. If we started the playoffs, we'd be on the road in Boston, Dubas told NHL Network. Though some people might not like it, for us as a young group that's trying to mature, it keeps the pressure on our players all throughout the season. Being in our division, though it's very competitive and the road to get through is daunting, for our young players being in a division with two teams of that nature that have been so competitive, and so good, for so long, it's only going to be a positive for our guys. I think it teaches them focus, maturity and really the ability to maintain their concentration for the full season, which will be a benefit to us in the playoffs. Detractors of the current format will argue for a return to the old days when teams were seeded 1 through 8 in each conference, and reseeded for every round. Fair for the top seed, they'd say. This is a bit disingenuous since the top seed always plays the lowest of the two wildcards in the first round. The NHL argued for brackets to help with fan engagement. Read, betting, a la March Madness. What it's ended up doing is creating fiercer rivalries. Washington kept running into Pittsburgh. Minnesota could never get by Chicago. Now it's Toronto-Boston. The NHL might have an optics issue when the top teams in one division are so far ahead of the top teams in another, as is the case this year with the Atlantic and Metro. But let's remember the league plays an unbalanced schedule in Toronto. Tampa and Boston have gotten to beat up Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo and Florida, 4 of the worst 6 teams in the East, more than anyone else. The Red Wings and Senators are in a race to the bottom. By the way, the 2 worst teams in the NHL. Meanwhile, the Metro has better, more competitive non-playoff teams, like Columbus and Philadelphia, making it harder to earn points. In other words, take a win each over Detroit and Ottawa, 4 points, from Boston and Toronto, and give them to the Metro leaders, and that's enough. A swing that no one is complaining about the format. The NHL's first round was always among the best in pro sports. Riveting regardless of its format. Interest used to tail off in the second round. Now the second round might be more interesting, the way it should be. Last year the top 2 teams in the NHL met in the second round, Winnipeg emerging victorious over Nashville. The bottom line is the same, the Stanley Cup champion has to win 4 best-of-7 series. 16 victories. If you want to be the best, you should have to beat the best. It shouldn't matter what round you meet them in. Report and air journalistic standards about the Star Sports action and reaction delivered to your inbox. New NEWSLETTERSPORTSIG and up.